What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast episode. So today I'm going to go into an article that was just released the other day about Congress' proposal to would overhaul college sports, would require revenue sharing, cover athletes' medical costs. So I'm going to say if this is a good or a bad thing. So far, from what I have been reading about it, it's been a good thing for these athletes. So let me see if I can get into all this. It's kind of a long article. Of course, I will link the article down in the description below. So please, if you want to look at that, I love this kind of stuff because I was a sport administration major. So I'm really into these kind of things. So now it goes into saying the most recent congressional proposal to reshape college sports aims to go far beyond codifying a college athlete's ability to earn endorsement money. So this is huge, right? The College Athlete Bill of Rights, introduced Thursday by co-author Senator Cory Booker, which is New Jersey, and Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, would create sweeping changes for college sports, including provisions that would force some schools to share revenue with some of their athletes, guarantee lifetime scholarships to athletes in good academic standing, which is huge. I think you need to be in good academic standing. Establish health and safety rules enforced by hefty fines for violators, and set up funds to cover up some of the out-of-pocket medical expenses for current and former athletes, which is really awesome to see that. The rules and requirements laid out in the bill would be enforced by a newly formed commission on college athletics, which will be run by 9 members of the board who are appointed by the President of the United States. I think it should be appointed by the NCAA, but that's just my opinion. Because NCAA, even though I'm not a huge fan of NCAA, they know more of what's going on in college athletics, and I think they should be able to appoint whoever. They should be the ones to oversee this, is what I'm trying to say, more than anything. So, they would hire staff to resolve disputes, suggest changes to rules, and investigate wrongdoing with the power to subpoena witnesses. This group would receive $50 million in taxpayer funding for its first 2 years, would take on a lot of the work for policy in college sports. So what's going to be the NCAA? Because to me, that's NCAA, right? So can they override what NCAA says, basically? So that should be interesting. This is one of the few industries in America that is allowed to exploit those who are responsible for generating most of the revenue. Booker had told ESPN, "I feel like the federal government has a role and responsibility that we've been shirking in terms of protecting athletes and ensure their safety. I just really believe that there is an urgency here that has not been met for decades and decades. We need to step up and do something about it." So is this a good or bad thing? I'm kind of on the fence about some of this. Some of it's good. Some of it's I'm kind of questioning on, I guess you can say. So Booker's bill is 1.5 dozen proposals from members of Congress to regulate the changing business model of college sports. NCAA President Mark Emmert and others have asked federal lawmakers, help them to create a national law. I didn't read that part a while ago. I missed it, I guess. That governs the future marketplace for college athletes selling their name, image, and likeness rights. I guess that would make sense. So if athletes can get paid for those kind of things. So at least athletes are getting to do this now in the future. The NCAA Board of Governors is scheduled to vote next month on whether to change its rules to allow athletes to collect NIL payments. Emmert said at a conference last week that their vote is in some ways contingent upon receiving help from Congress. So other proposed bills are focused specifically on addressing what kinds of endorsement deals college athletes should be allowed to sign and what kinds of restrictions colleges and NCAA should be allowed to enforce. The bill proposed, so this is going to be huge for NCAA, the bill proposed Thursday represents a border overhaul of college sports. Booker said the larger scope was necessary because the NCAA has not done a good enough job protecting its athletes. On several fronts, I agree. Blumenthal said that a bill creates new rules without a strong enforcement element in it is an effectively dead letter. So both senators conferred with several college sports leaders when constructing the bill. So this has probably been in the works for a while because a lot of this stuff takes so much time to go through. Booker said they initially had most of their conversations with current and former athletes, which is awesome, because he wanted to craft legislation, I cannot talk, of course, that was focused solely on improving or protecting the rights of athletes. Blumenthal said they heard some quiet support from university presidents who feel college sports is in need of significant reform. I agree. The bill's first stop in legislative process will be for discussion in the Judiciary Committee. Booker said that he thinks it's possible for Congress to pass a law for college sports reform in the first half of 2021. So we'll see. So I'm thinking by June or July. The bill's co-sponsors thus far are all Democrats, so Republicans really need to step in and kind of like get in on this as well. Blumenthal said depending on which party controls the Senate, it could improve their odds of moving forward swiftly with their ambitious and sweeping bill. Regardless, he said, this is simply an idea whose time it has come. Booker said he's had encouraging conversations with politicians from both sides of the aisle on some issues addressed in the bill. So, they're optimistic about all this. This framework that is laid out, it says that in further detail in a 56-page proposal that outlines how changes would be implemented or regulated. So it's interesting to see. So now they know some things, the name, image, likeness. So college athletes would be allowed to sign endorsement deals with a wide variety of companies. They would be required to report any deal to their athletic department within 21 days. So that's, I can see that, but at least they would get this opportunity. That information would be stored in a private database. Athletes would be able to sign deals with apparel brands that compete with their school's apparel brand. Okay, I see. But schools, so like Nike, if your school's Nike, you could go with Adidas, whatever, I don't know. But that's what I'm getting. But schools can require them to wear school-sponsored gear during any mandatory team events. So this is cool. The one exception is footwear. Athletes would be allowed to wear shoes from their individual sponsor during team events. So that's cool. State governments can create laws that prohibit athletes from endorsing companies in certain industries, gambling, illicit substances, etc., as long as universities are also prohibited from endorsing the same industry. Unlike other proposals, individual schools would not be able to place any restriction on the type of business an athlete can endorse. Revenue sharing. So this is going to get tricky. Athletes in sports that generate more revenue than the total amount of money that is spent on scholarships in that sport would be entitled to share 50% of the money left after scholarships are paid. Okay. In FBS level football, for example, the commission would add together the revenue generated by all 130 football programs and subtract the total cost of scholarships at all those programs. Half the money that is left would be distributed evenly among all the players at the FBS level. That's cool, I think. The sports that currently generate enough money to qualify for this revenue sharing, according to Booker's office, are football, both FBS and FCS levels, men's and women's basketball and baseball. So still got a little work to do, but this is like foot in the door kind of thing that I think this is great. So now if we can get Division 2 and mostly Division 2 in there at some point after we get Division 1, I think that would be great. This seems like it's going to be good, but we'll see. Now this goes into agents. I'm not going to be able to get into all of this, I'm sorry, but I'll link the description down below and you guys will be able to see that. It goes with agents, saying that athletes would be allowed to hire agents or join groups that would help them secure group licensing fees. Schools, conference, and organizations like the NCAA would not be allowed to dictate which agents an athlete could hire, which is awesome. The proposed commission would create an oversee process for certified athletes, and then goes into medical care, which I'm not going to get into that. Then goes into education. Schools will be required to continue paying for an athlete scholarship until they finish their undergraduate degree, as long as the athlete maintains a GPA of a 2.2 or higher. So, yeah. Schools will not be allowed to discourage athletes from taking certain classes or participating in other extra activities. Those that violate the rule could face fines up to 20% of their annual athletics revenue. Whoa. Athletes will be able to transfer schools without facing penalty. Athletes would not be able to transfer during their sports season or in the 45 days leading up to start of the season. I can understand that. It goes into a lot of other things. Commission is the last thing that's on this list. So I'm not going to go into all this, of course. But what I think on it so far, it seems like it's okay. I think it should be tweaked a little bit. But other than that, I feel like this could be a really good thing. So tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. Is this going to be a good thing, or is it not going to be? Is this like the right step in the right direction kind of thing? If you have not already, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. See ya.